Hello, class. Last lecture video of the year, week 15, day 2, dynamic games. And so we got our Lil Wayne quote back. Today I went shopping and talk is still cheap, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And so our motivation today is games are not always played simultaneously, like I showed you in the last class. In fact, often you see your opponent's move first, and you want to know how to best respond to that. And so chess and checkers and tic-tac-toe, all these turn-based games are all sequential. And in addition to that, there's these economic situations like firm entry, which can also be modeled as a sequential game. And so once we have a sequential game, then we can start to solve for the equilibrium firm behavior, which we'll show you how to do. All right. So sequential game, essentially moves are just made in order. And you have some information about previous moves. It's not really necessary for this to be certain information. You can have some probability that your opponent made some other move if you can't see it. We're not going to go there. It's kind of complicated, but and these things can have many moves. So like chess, lots of moves. Checkers, not as many, still a lot. And so we have this action, which is a move made at a specific point, which I talked about last class, and the strategy is a plan, conditional on the information available. However, with a simultaneous move game, the difference between action and strategy, there is really no difference because your action is a strategy because you don't have any additional information as the game goes on, you just pick. With a sequential game, there's a really big difference between an action and a strategy, because your strategy is like, if I end up here, if my competitor sets a high price, then I'm here, and then I set my price. My competitor sets a price that's low, and then I'm here, and then I can pick something. And so, a strategy would say, what do you do if your competitor sets a high price, and what do you do if your competitor sets a low price? And so it's a complete set of actions that you will do conditional on where you are in the game. Okay, so let's go back to our airplane situation. And now what's going on is we're going to let American Airlines choose the quantity of flights or passengers before United chooses how many. And so now there's a sequential, like American starts, then United comes in. And so like, what should they do? And we have similar actions, except now I've added a third action, which is 96 rides. And so now we have 3 options that either firm can choose. And it's important to note when I get there that I will be listing the profit of American Airlines first, because they are the first mover. And so that is conventional also in game theory. All right. So these are the actions that American take. You can see that they're starting here as a leader, and they can choose to run 48,000 flights or 60 or passengers or whatever, or they can choose 64, or they can choose 96. And so those are the 3 actions that we start out with. And then it's United's turn to make a move. And so here is United in any of these potential scenarios. And they also have 3 actions. And so they can choose. So we can have American chooses 48, then United chooses 48, or American chooses 48, then United chooses 64, all the way through American chooses 96, and United chooses 96. And so these are all the players, American and United, and all the actions that they can take represented by each branch. So, if this number is above this branch, then that's the action that they're taking on that branch. And we're using branch because this is also called tree, a game tree. And so each of these is called like a branch. And so then the final thing is payoffs. And so, if American runs 48, United runs 48, then they both get 4.6. This is what we saw last time, is they both choose 64 and they get 4.1. And so there's these 9 sets of payoffs that happen conditional on what the firms choose, how many flights or how many people they fly on this route. And so we need to figure out like what do we predict is going to happen. And so a new equilibrium concept is needed to account for the dynamics in this game, or the fact that it's sequential. And so we're going to use subgame perfect Nash equilibrium. So we're going to build on Nash equilibrium with this subgame perfect concept. And so you can find a subgame perfect Nash equilibrium if all player strategies are a Nash equilibrium in every subgame. Now, good luck translating that, because that's kind of complicated to think about. I'm going to show you kind of the easier way to think about it. And so kind of another name for this is the rollback equilibrium. So we're going to start at the end of the game and then roll it back to the first actor, American, because that is how we find the subgame perfect. And this does a nice job of capturing how we actually get here. And so in subgame perfect, we're going to start at the end of the game. And we want to think about what would United do if American chose 48, if American chose 64, and if American chose 96. And so we're developing kind of their entire strategy here, which is a set of all the actions they would take at any of these three potential places they find themselves in after American chooses. And so what should United do? Well, let's just start with considering if we were in the top. Like this American chooses 48, now what should United do? Okay, so we know that United's payoffs are the second number in these parentheses here. And so if American chooses 48, United chooses 48, then United gets 4.6. American 48, United 64, 5.1. American 48, United 96, 4.6. And so we know that if American chooses 48, United wants to choose 64 because 5.1 is greater than 4.6 or 4.6, and we like profits as a business. And so what we can do is put a big old X on these branches, because we know that if United finds themselves here, they're going to choose 64 and not 48 or 96. And so kind of a fancier name for this is we're pruning the branches of this tree at 96 and 48. We're going to eliminate them. And I'm going to signify that with these X's. And so what we can do is we can go through and do the same thing at every other node. And so if American chooses 64 and United finds himself here, they can choose 48 and get 3.8. They can choose 64 and get 4.1, or they can choose 96 and get 3.1. And they like 4.1 over all those. So they're going to choose 64 if they find themselves here. And then now what we have is the last one, and by kind of the same elimination strategy, we know that if American chooses 96, United chooses 48, and because they're like 2.3 better than the other two. And so what we've done is we've eliminated a lot of different potential choices for outcomes in this game. And so now what we need to do is to put ourselves in American shoes, because what American can do is look forward and say that, oh, okay, if I choose 96, United chooses 48. If I choose 64, United chooses 64. If I choose 48, United chooses 64. And so what I need to do is decide which one of those is the best for American. And so we look and we see that 48-64, American gets 3.8, 64-64, American gets 4.1, or 96-48, American gets 4.6. And so American chooses 96, United chooses 48, and the payoffs are 4.6 and 2.3. And this is a subgame perfect Nash equilibrium of this game. You've just figured it out. You've been able, you can predict the equilibrium in this firm competition, sequential firm competition. Pretty cool, I think. I hope you do too. And so I don't think I have anything more to say about that. I just want to say that in this game, we have 2 players. 3 actions each. So we have 9 total potential outcomes. There's nothing stopping us from, adding additional players or adding additional stages. So, maybe like American chooses again, like, or a third airline chooses, or another thing we could do is we could add additional options. So we could have 48, 64, 96, 200. We can also generalize this to allow American to choose a range of values. So there's nothing forcing us to have discrete 48, 64, 96. They could choose 48.1, 48.2, 48.3. You need calculus for that, so I'm not going to do it. And then kind of an example of that is this tic-tac-toe extensive form game, which I wanted to show you just to kind of give you an idea of how large these game trees can get, even for a very simple game. And so this is a tic-tac-toe extensive form game. You start with a blank board, and then X can go top left, top middle, top right, all the way to bottom right, and then O can go into any of those. And you see it gets pretty big pretty fast. And this is the link where I found this. This guy is talking about how do you solve tic-tac-toe using programming. It's interesting, but by no means required for you to go here. And then back to the Little Wayne quote, I think this is something that undergraduates should learn. So simultaneous and sequential games have different outcomes just because we added in this dynamic of allowing someone else to choose first. And the reason is because in this case, American could credibly commit to choosing 96. Whereas if it was just a simultaneous form game, they could say, I'm going to choose 96. But, there's nothing that would bind them to choosing 96 absent some kind of contract. And so in the sequential game, the first mover can credibly threaten to produce more basically because they have already done it. The second mover sees that. And so this is related to Sun Tzu again. And this quote, so practically when there's no retreat option, soldiers fight harder. You've already committed to the battle. There's no way to retreat. And so if you just tell your army that, I'm not going to retreat, but there's still a way to retreat, then you haven't really credibly signaled to them. Signals need to be costly for them to have actual information. And so you can signal to your army that you're not going to retreat by burning all your options to retreat. And so then you've credibly signaled to them via this costly signal that you're not going to retreat. And so when your army has crossed the border, you should burn your boats and bridges to make sure that everyone knows we're going to do this. We ain't going home until the job is done, kind of thing. And so I think this is a really useful lesson for undergraduates because all the time I get emails that are this bad thing happened to me, or I'm having a hard time, and I like to empathize and try to help students as much as I can, but giving them the benefit of the doubt. However, just saying in an email something happened, well, it's not a very strong signal because it's not costly for you to type out a sentence. And so how to credibly signal is a really interesting area of economics, at least to me. And so I like it a lot. But anyway, so many times, and Lil Wayne would say, talk. He went shopping today, and talk is still cheap. So many times there are dynamic economic competitions between firms, individuals, lots of people. And so what we did here today was we introduced the representation of these dynamic games and showed you how to find the equilibrium using the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium and the rollback kind of strategy. And so that's all I got. It's been a really interesting year with everybody. I hope everyone made it through it relatively unscathed. It's been hard, but I have enjoyed making these videos for you guys and helping you try to understand what is, sometimes a pretty complicated topic in intermediate microeconomic theory. And I've been proud with, everyone's performance. So, thank you guys for sticking with me this semester, and finish strong. I'm rooting for you guys. And that's everything. Thank you.